Hello, hello. How are you on this beautiful Sunday morning? So, today I wanted to talk about love, but love in a way we maybe haven't experienced or haven't perceived it in that way. And to start to let it take a hold and to maybe reprogram what you feel is love inside your body. So, traditionally, our human programmed perspective of love is a couple different things, like kissing someone or hugging them if they're your family member, and feeling this happiness and joy of receiving touch, of feeling their smile, their eyes, that little flutter that you get maybe in your heart when you're having love with another person. We also use the word love to be around sexuality, making love and sharing of that intimacy and that depth and that connectedness with another person. So we get kind of lost in the feel-good sides of love and the squishy parts and other parts. And we also have this attachment to being loved by other people. And sometimes we don't know to love ourselves. We've kind of lost that facet in a world that teaches people pleasing and demands us as children to be quiet and not heard and not listened to, and to please, to make mommy and daddy happy, or whatever programming that comes down there. We get lost in this ooey gooey kind of love. But I want to talk about the deeper side of love. So I talked a little bit about things like intimacy and connectedness, feeling that as part of love. Well, I'm going to start to ask you, in your relationships, some of the things where we had breakups, or we had a love from another where things got smashed. Maybe that other person shared their love with someone else and had an affair, or had some thing that ended up destroying the marriage, and it made us question ourselves. And it made us go deep. Sometimes it smashed us, made us feel like shit and not happy and not comfortable, and it destroyed our world sometimes. Now, it may be hard to sit in the middle of that pain and that frustration and that wound and to say that it was a form of love, but it was a form of self-love. So let's talk about an affair, for example. So that jealousy we feel to another person, that they can't be loved by someone else. Why is that? Why can you not love multiple people openly? And you may say, oh, well, it's only if they have sex or whatever. Well, no, a lot of people are concerned if somebody flirts or other things. So we're uncertain about our love. We take some self-validation from being loved by other people. And when we have only them loving us, it's a safe little bubble that tells us that I'm special and I'm deserving and other things. But we're actually suffering from a lack of our own self-love. If only one person can love us, what happens when that one person doesn't love us anymore? The whole world falls apart. We get smashed. It's like, oh, well, a lot of people are now even questioning the love from their families and their parents, and they're seeing narcissism and programming and other things, and they're learning to set these boundaries within themselves, but only through seeing maybe what is they're calling a lack of love. Oh, my parents aren't loving me because they're being narcissistic to me, or my wife didn't love me because she had an affair with another man. Often these things are symptoms of things that happened far before the event that happened. A lack of self-love will lead to attachment. What's attachment? Well, attachment is us relying on someone else to know we're loved. Does that help us? What happens when that smashes? We die. We have this inner death and we shrink small. What happens when we self-love ourselves instead? And that's what the journey we're going on right now, this pursuit of love, this enlightenment that is all love and light, and all the things that we place on it, is actually us learning to love ourselves and to find, through the crashing and the smashing of a relationship, of attachment, of family situations, etc., we're being forced to rely on ourselves, which is what it's all about. We were never meant to be attached to other people or to only live off solely the love of others. And when we give our love away to people openly to try and feed them and make them happy and serve their needs first, we lose ourselves. And I was in a marriage in my past where my wife wasn't very awake, and the programming she has was just to receive love. And I was in a point where I'd given up 90% of my love. I was ready to have a heart attack and die. At the point I finally had to make a choice. The universe was pushing me so hard. It was either suffer that death because I wasn't happy and I wasn't receiving back the love that I was giving. And then a small death happened. A divorce happened. One of the biggest smashes you can ever have in your life. And I'm looking back, and that was almost, 8 years ago now? It was the biggest, most important choice I've ever had in my life. And right now I look back at it, and it was like I was choosing to love myself. So underneath, there was all this pain and suffering and worry and breaking up houses and impacting children, but it was a choice for self-love. And most people won't see it until afterwards, but I was dying, literally dying. It wasn't, I was at the doctor and my pills were about to expire and my heart crushed or whatever, but no, I knew inside that I was dying. My heart was broken. The things that I needed in a relationship to serve and feed me weren't there. And some people will say, oh, well, you need to go to counseling or whatever. No, this was chosen far before it ever happened. It was chosen for both of us. And the growth that we both experienced through this, what I'll call the darkest dark kind of love, forced something to happen, forced a change. And this is the love I'm talking about, the love that's so deep, the love that's underneath a universe where we have had to live through some really nasty world happenings over these last 2 years. This is love. This is crushing people. This is forcing them to be alone. This is forcing them to lose their job, forcing them to do all these things, which puts them in a place where they eventually made some choices that they wouldn't have made elsewhere. They were so comfortable and happy in the pattern, thinking everybody was watching out for us and protecting us and serving us when they weren't. And now we're in this love of self, starting to say, fuck, I'm standing up. I'm not going to deal with this anymore. The love that is going on right now is not bubbly, puffy love, but it leads to bubbly, puffy love. It leads to crushing us into making a choice and saying something's wrong here. And that was what I talked about in my marriage. Something was wrong here. I didn't know any better. I'd been giving it that way to my parents and my mother and family for my whole life. But as soon as it was with a wife, and then I had kids, and how can I give that all to my kids? And how could I be anything without being 100% of my own self, my own love? So I just became a shadow of who I was. And then I had to make this choice where everything got smashed, and I had to go into a bubble and a hole for a while and go through some of the darkest journeys in my mind to figure out where the programming was all gone, what lineage shit, what stuff was not serving me, so that I could rise above and say, fuck, I deserve better. And I'm not saying my wife was bad or anybody was bad. I divorced for love. And most people won't understand that. But the love was, we both would have died in the long term. We would have got nowhere. We would have been in this mucky hole and mad at each other and blaming each other, and nobody would have won. But out the back of all this comes this magical new awareness of self to say, I need more. I deserve better. And it maybe can't be with this person. So all of a sudden, now you're not making that choice anymore. You're rising above. And now all of a sudden, it's like, fuck, I deserve. And then there became a journey of trying to date and trying to do all these things and finding mangled up versions of the exact same love until I could find out what was inside of me that was creating these things. And as I found these things inside of me, I grew and I become more aware. And then my love was no longer about the perfect lover. My love was about me choosing me and me creating boundaries, me asking for my needs to be met early on, not leaving them to be maybe figured out or whatever. Love at that level becomes direct communication. We talked about that intimacy of talking about what you want and what you desire and being emotional about it and being scared to ask for it, and all this kind of shit will leave you completely and totally empowered going forward. What I want, what I desire, what I need, what I see in others, whatever. I do not want to live a life where I hide from stuff or just turn away from people or block them or whatever. I want to live a life where I speak directly and openly about what I see and in a loving way, so that self-reflection can maybe give somebody the rocket fuel that they need to make different choices in their life. And it's incredible and it's powerful and it's magic. And that's what it's all about. That love is not what we've been trained to. That love is not outside us. That love is not in another person. That love is in us, choosing boundaries, choosing love, choosing light, choosing everything that we need for us. And once you find that place, you're not chasing anymore. You're not having to please anyone. You're not having to prostitute yourself. You're not having to fucking live in a shadow of who you are because you're scared that you'll lose what little you have and you have no more left to give and it kills you. So I love you all. This maybe is not the message that you'd hope for, but it's truth. The dark things is what gets us through. The dark things is what will help us grow. The dark things is what pushes us. And the darkest dark is the lightest light, because sometimes without change, without stuff breaking up, without the world falling apart, etc., we would have just stuck with what we had. And that was never serving us. So I love you all. I thank you for listening. Have a great day. Thank you.